What's going on, guys? I am BlackOpsAmazing. Welcome back to another zombies video where today I'm going to be answering a bunch of your questions to do with the zombies storyline. If you enjoyed today's video, a like rating if you want to would be very much appreciated. I would like to thank you all so much for the support on the channel lately. Honestly, it really does mean a lot to me. So thank you to everyone who just subscribes, leaves a like rating, just generally supports the channel. Thank you so much. Anyway, so getting into today's video, if there's any questions that you have for me that you want to know, leave them in the comments and I could pick them for the next video. But anyway, with that out of the way, let's get straight into it. Here we go. So the first question comes from the legendary gamer, and he says, BlackOpsAmazing, how did Richtofen get in the house in Origins? So I believe you're basically asking me, how did Eddie get into the house in the Origins cutscene along with Samantha? Well, first off, I want to say not everything that we see in zombies takes place in order. So the Origins cutscene doesn't take place straight after Origins. And we know that because at the end of the Origins Easter egg, obviously Maxis is in the Maxis drone, and then he flies up to the portal, to Argotha, to Dr. Monty, and then Dr. Monty takes his brain and puts it inside of a physical body in the house. Obviously, all that's gonna take time. But the Origins cutscene happens straight after we complete that Easter egg. Clearly, those events don't happen straight after, so you can see that in zombies, not everything that we see happens in order, or not as quick as we see it. In this case, the Origins cutscene actually takes place years after the Origins ending. Now obviously Origins takes place in 1918, Eddie's soul isn't collected until 1944, so that's years after, and also we know that after Origins, Richtofen went missing for 2 years. He did research for 2 years finding the Canorium and then went on the search for the summoning key, where he eventually found it 2 years later in Shadows of Evil. So actually the Origins cutscene takes place 2 years after Origins. But the question is, how did Eddie get in the house? Well, after the premise version of Richtofen arrived in Shadows of Evil to collect the summoning key, when he left in that ending cutscene, when he went back through that rift, he travelled to another dimension called 2210. He travelled to this dimension to secure an innocent version of Richtofen's soul. Once he got this soul, he then delivered it to the house, to Dr. Monty, where he gave him the physical form as a child. So Richtofen, or Eddie, was now a child in the house. And that is the simple answer. So to sum it up, how did Richtofen get in the house? Just after Shadows of Evil, Richtofen travelled to dimension 2210 to collect an innocent version of Richtofen's soul, and then took it to the house to Dr. Monty so he could turn him into a child. And then obviously after that, we see the Origins cutscene with Eddie and Samantha in the house. The next question comes from Alex Eiler. This person says, do the story of Nikolai's wife that he talks about in Gorod Krovi. Well, in the original timeline, Nikolai had a very interesting bio, where it said Stalin himself cannot stare Nikolai in the eye. No one can. There, in his eyes, you will see the soul of a man burning with hatred of all living things. His closet is full of skeletons, many of them with the flesh still attached. Early in his career, Nikolai had quickly made his way up through the ranks by killing the next man in line, and by marrying politically. Ultimately, his aspirations all came crashing down after his 5th wife mysteriously died while cleaning his axe with her neck. Basically, he killed her. Little did he know that she had been sleeping with a high-ranking party official on the side. This made Nikolai infamous, and his reputation spread quickly through the party. It was not long before Stalin himself had heard about Nikolai. More importantly, he feared Nikolai. As soon as the war started, our hero was dropped on the front lines and forgotten about, where he wallowed in self-pity and vodka for several years. So that was Nikolai's biography. From that, we learn that he had several wives. Dr. Monty tells us that the original timeline Nikolai truly loved his first wife and was never quite the same after her death. We learn that he was married at least 9 times and murdered at least 5 of his wives. The first wife was supposedly killed with a shotgun, the second by a sniper, the 5th wife, as I said, by his axe, and his 3rd wife was killed by a sickle, whilst only his 4th wife was confirmed to have escaped alive. And even then, with a quote that we can find in Ascension, Nikolai implies that he chased his 4th wife down and promptly beat her to death with his own hands. He mentions having a 7th wife on Moon, which obviously also means he had a 6th, but he doesn't mention killing any of them. But actually in the official timeline, we think that Nikolai really only ever had one wife, and fabricated the rest due to his memory, due to his vodka. We see in the Gorod Krovi ending cutscene that Nikolai did in fact love his wife, and he hints that actually she was killed when the Germans were advancing into the Soviet Union, that she was killed during an air raid. Nikolai loved his wife, and so in an effort to numb the pain, he turned to vodka. And when drunk, he thought of imaginary wives that he never actually had, and comments about them as if they were actually real. But this was only ever to hide the pain buried beneath his true self. We also know that on December the 9th of 1942, Nikolai's brother was also killed in the Battle of Stalingrad, which caused him to drink even more. You see, Nikolai lost pretty much all of his family. We know he also has a daughter, a brother who is homeless and broke, a brother-in-law who he hates, and also a sister who he hates as well. But his wife, who he loved, died, and because of that, he drank, and then when he was drunk, to kind of ease his pain, he made up that he had several wives after, and that he killed them. So hopefully that answers your question. Samuel de Jesus says, in another universe, would you be Infinite Warfare and No, just don't even talk about that game. Just we don't mention it here. No, just stop it. Suicide Dude says, what or who downed the German bomber in Gorod Krovi? As we know, in Stalingrad, the Germans were at war with the Russians. The Germans had the dragons, and the Russians had giant robots, and those two were fighting together. And in the skies over Gorod Krovi, we can see planes flying about everywhere, shooting the dragons. So this bomber was probably downed by one of the Russian robots. Now, someone asked me this question in a previous video. I just can't find the comment. I think I either screenshotted it or deleted it accidentally. I don't know where it went, but I remember someone asking me, what's the deal with the missing people in Shadows of Evil? Now, you can see on the walls down in the underground section in Shadows of Evil, there are a load of missing people on the walls. Some of them adults, men, women, some of them children, and each and every one of these people seems to be missing. Now, you can clearly see in the background on this section of the wall, we have a map of Mob of the Dead. There are numbers, Illuminati symbols, a load of random letters and numbers on the wall. Then, of course, we have the red lines, kind of like what police do, or when you're trying to hunt someone down. It's just really random. And then also, just underneath these missing people, we have tables with kind of like ritual things on it. Obviously, we have the skull of the apothecans. We have candles that are lit up. Kind of like these people are either being worshipped or prayed for. Some of these people even have rewards on them if they were ever to be found. Do these people have a link to Mob of the Dead? Is this of any significance? Because Treyarch never really throw anything into zombies without it having at least some importance behind it, and this for me is so random. Are these developers that I don't know of? I'm not sure. Or I was thinking that maybe these are people that have gone missing from the city, since we know that this city basically had been taken over by the Keepers. They were here to protect it, the Order of the Keepers, and then we had the chanting coming from beneath the city and the apothecans. Did these people over time go missing in Shadows of Evil? Like I said, do they have a relation to Mob of the Dead? The next question from this guy, I'm not gonna try and pronounce your names, I've done terrible today. I'm sorry, I'm really sorry. Why and how were the origin staffs made? Well, hundreds of years ago, as we know, there was a war between the apothecans and the Keepers. Also involved in this war in 1299 was Primus. Together, this group, using the magic elemental staffs, helped the Keepers to defeat the apothecans. The original staffs that these four heroes used were the Staff of Lightning, the Staff of Fire, Staff of Ice, and the Staff of Wind, and these were used to defeat the apothecans and banish them back to the Dark Ether. Once the apothecans were defeated, the four Primus heroes then disappeared. It's unknown what happened to their elemental staffs. We don't know where they went. Just after that, they were never to be seen again. The staffs were lost over time. So that is the story of the original staffs. But, as we know, we then see some appear in Origins. And these staffs in Origins aren't the original ones, although they are replicas. Using Pablo's journal that was found at the dig site in France, the original location of the Great Battle, Dr. Maxis drew some schematics for the creation of these four elemental staffs, and he then instructed Richtofen to begin their construction. He found information about these staffs in Pablo's journal, he took that information, drew it up on some schematics, and then told Richtofen to create these four elemental staffs, to get as close as he could to the originals. And so that's what he did. Group 935 made replicas of the original staffs. Obviously, the Staff of Lightning is called Kaimat's Bite, and Kaimat is the dog of the Tanguine god Kadaklan. The Staff of Ice is called Kaguchi's Blood. I'm probably going to pronounce some of these wrong, but that's named after the Japanese god of fire, Kaduchi. The Staff of Ice is Ul's Arrow, or Yu's Arrow? How do you pronounce these? But that is a Norse god commonly associated with winter, and the Staff of Ice is called Borea's Fury, named after Borea, the Greek god of the north wind. Then of course the end of the upgraded staffs can be used to revive players, and that part is called Sekhmet's Vigor, which is named after Sekhmet, the Egyptian warrior goddess of healing. So all 4 of these staffs are replicas that were made by Group 935 of the originals. Where the originals are, still to this day, we don't know. Maybe we'll get to play with them in Treyarch's next game, Black Ops 4 or whatever it is. Who knows, but there we go. So there we have it. That is all I have for you guys today. Hopefully you have enjoyed the video. As always, if you have a like rating, if you feel like it, if you think I've deserved it, would be very much appreciated. Make sure that you are subscribed to stay up to date with the latest videos on the channel. Also click the little bell notification icon as well. Leave your comments for the next video in the comments section below. This series always runs off your guys' ideas, theories, and anything that you want to know on zombies. So everyone watching the video, any question you have, the more interesting the better for me. Just leave everything down in the comments section below. Anyway, thank you for watching, and of course we'll see you all in the next video. Thank you and goodbye.